for safety is where we part ways. See, I ride with standard Toyota safety sense. On my road, no one pays extra for peace of mind. Yours, Highlander. Toyota, let's go places.
What it was, but I looked at it and thought, it's that kid. Oh my gosh, that's Aiden.
Everybody gets a heart, everybody gets a soul.
It is 7 o'clock. I would like to call this meeting to order. Would you all please join me, stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, and remain standing for a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. My name is Don Lips, and I am the current president of the Martinsville School Board. To my left is Heather Staggs, vice president. To her left is Jackie Deckard, secretary. To her left is Michelle Ball, board member. And to her left is Matt Hankins, board member. To my right is our newly appointed superintendent of schools, Mr. Eric Boland. And to his right is the assistant to the superintendent, Mrs. Susie Lips. I would also like to take this time to introduce a couple other individuals that are in the crowd tonight that will be a part of our program and part of our meeting. Mr. Matt Shoemaker from Stiefel Finance Group, and also Mr. Jacob McClellan from Bose McKinney. On behalf of the board and the administration, I'd like to welcome you to the July 21st, 2022 meeting of the Board of Trustees of the MSD of Martinsville. I thank you for attending. This meeting is a meeting of the school board in public for the purpose of conducting school business. and is not to be considered a public community meeting. Opportunities for participation will be permitted in accordance with Policy B250. I would like to remind everyone that 48 hours prior to our meetings, all meeting documents are now posted on our website for you to view in advance of the meeting. Our first item of business this evening is a 1028 bond hearing. So at this time, I would like to open the hearing and turn the microphone over to Mr. Jacob McClellan.
Thank you. Can you guys hear me okay? Do I need to speak louder, or is that okay? Okay. Jacob McClellan with Bose, McKinney & Evans. This is the start of your bond approval process for the general obligation bonds. I'll generally go over the process and then turn to the items that we need to address for the 1028 hearing statutorily, but we thought it made sense to go through everything and all the steps you're going through today so everybody has the big picture as you're going through the process. So the first step tonight will be this 1028 hearing. Statutorily, that's required anytime the school is going to undertake a project and fund it with bond proceeds and the project exceeds $1 million. The next hearing will be the additional appropriation hearing, and that is to take public comment on the appropriation of the bond proceeds into the school's budget. And then during your regular session, you'll take up the 1028 resolution and vote on the project. And then you'll take up and consider a bond resolution. That bond resolution will outline all of the specifics of the bonds, and it'll include parameters from Stiefel, your financial advisor, and it'll include the authorization to go out to the market and sell the bonds and the provisions related to the marketing of the bonds. And then the last action item during the regular session will be the appropriation resolution, and that is where you'll consider whether to take the bond proceeds into your budget after you've had the hearing, your next hearing. So with that, I'll go through just generally, find my spot here, but the bond resolution, just for high level, the bonds will be in an amount of not to exceed $5,335,000, and it's for the project. I'll read this into the record. The project includes the improvement, renovation, acquisition, and equipping of the school corporation's facilities, including improvements, upgrades, and renovations to the school corporation's athletic facilities, including football facility improvements, soccer facility improvements, softball facility improvements, baseball facility improvements, and other renovations, improvements, equipping, and upgrades at all school corporation facilities. For timing purposes, we anticipate that if everything gets approved tonight, that we would be looking at beginning the marketing process for the bonds probably in early August. We'll have some notices that we'll have to send out. We would anticipate a bond sale in early September with proceeds available to the school by mid-September. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions, and then I can run through statutorily what we need to hit for the 1028 hearing. Is there any questions? Or okay, so I've read the project description into the record. The project cost, as I mentioned, is not to exceed $5,335,000. I'll turn it over to Superintendent Boland to talk about the need for the project, and then he'll turn it over to Matt Shoemaker with Stiefel to talk about the financial aspects of the project, and then you can take comments from the public.
Thank you, Jacob. Can everybody hear me okay? I'll get right up here on the mic. Okay, obviously I was the principal at the high school for this past year, and we were taking a look at facilities because the facilities in a one-horse town like Martinsville, a high school is very important. It's a very important campus for us. Not only do we have our sporting events and our co-curricular activities, whether that be the band performances and things of that nature out on our fields, we also have all of our practices that take place out on the same fields. And it's not just practices for high school, it is often practices for our middle school teams as well. So we are out there using those fields on a regular basis. So we have our middle school kids coming over and participating in track, and we have them coming over doing some practices on the football field, and we have them coming over using the softball complex as well. And for example, our softball complex there in the right field area, many of you know here from Martinsville the Sarter Ditch and how it runs through the area. We often have flooding that takes place in that right field area. So whenever we have inclement weather in the spring, which in Indiana we often do, not only does it cancel or postpone some of our games, it is canceling our practices as well for our young ladies. So they don't get an opportunity to play a game maybe, but worse is they don't get opportunities to practice. And that is something that really hinders their abilities to get better and compete like we're asking them to. The football facility had turf put in several years back, and now it is reaching its status to be replaced. So we talked as a team saying, okay, how are we going to, in this world, in this day and age, compete to not only attract students to our campuses and to our facilities and to our schools, we have to retain the ones we have as well. That is just as important as it is to attract new students or attract families to our community. So it is twofold for us. It is a quality of place issue, and we want to give our students all the opportunities they have to exceed and excel on their chosen field of endeavor. And I think that's an important thing, and I applaud the board for marching down this path several months ago, and I'm really excited about this project. We did the field house that was opened up in the fall of last year, and we get use out of that thing on a regular basis. One of my most exciting moments was the board doing that a few years ago, and then this fall we had inclement weather, and our football team came into the field house. Our cheerleaders were in the field house. Our cross-country kids who were getting ready for semi-state came into the field house, and they were running around the track. And we had our flag group getting ready to practice. It was like, that is why our board did what it did. It was not for the performance, it was for the practice in our kids. And I applaud the board moving in this direction, and this is an exciting project for the community of Martinsville, and to really improve our facilities so we can help our kids perform and excel in all of their chosen endeavors. So now I'll turn it back to Matt.
Good evening, Matt Shoemaker with Stiefel. Great to see you all again. I'm going to walk through the same presentation that I went through last month. I will be brief since you all have seen it before, but happy to answer any questions the board may have. So if we scroll to the first page here, so this simply just illustrates your outstanding debt as of today, color-coded by issue. You can see the last bond issue that you would have issued was last year in 2021. That was repaid quickly in 2 years, really to set you up to be in this position today. You can see both your payments and your tax rate, which is illustrated by that line graph, is scheduled to drop from 23 to 24. That puts you in position to take out additional debt, address facility needs that you're discussing now, and do it in a tax rate neutral position, meaning no increase to the tax rate. So if we go to the next page, we have shown an illustrative repayment structure, potential repayment structure. Nothing is locked in at this point, so this is just projected. But this is looking at the roughly $5 million of bonds that could be borrowed, and then how it might look when it is repaid. Currently, we're looking at a 10-year repayment. We'll have a small payment in 2023. Again, we don't want the tax rate to increase, so we're not going to have a large payment that year because there's not that much room. But beginning in 2024 through 2032 is when you'll repay the bulk of this. The beauty of this is it's going to put you in position to still maintain the flexibility moving forward. If there are additional facility needs that need to be addressed in the next couple years, you will be able to address those, again, without increasing the tax rate. So not only are we trying to keep the tax rate neutral now, we're thinking forward to potential other facility needs down the road. We don't want to put you in a position where you have facility needs that need to be addressed, but you don't have room within your tax rate. So we're making sure that we're keeping the payments a little bit smaller early to give you that flexibility so that you can come back in the next couple years if there are additional facility needs, take care of those without raising taxes at that point. If we go to the last page here, this has the parameters that are included in the resolution that Jacob just spoke about. I will run through them very quickly. Maximum par amount of the bonds, $5,335,000. Estimated cost of issuance, we talked about this is a very conservative number. We would expect it to be much lower than this, but right now we're showing $335,000. That would leave you net proceeds available for the project of $5 million. We've based everything off of interest rates at 4%. Rates have been going up significantly this year. They have leveled out a little bit over the past month. We still think this is a conservative number. If you were borrowing today, we think you'd be somewhere in the 3 to 3.5%. We'll hope that rates stay in there for the next month before we can get these bonds sold. But either way, you're going to be able to do this in a tax-neutral manner. Estimated interest expense, that's based on the 4% rate. We would hope that'd be a little bit less, but right now we're showing the $1,343,834. The estimated maximum tax rate impact is currently showing a little over 6 cents. We talked about this last time. That's just purely a statutory formula. Takes your maximum payment in 1 year, divides it by your assessed value. That comes up with the 6 cents. It doesn't take into account the picture we just showed you of the debt coming off. So we're simply replacing this debt. That's why we show the net impact. When all is said and done, you bring on the new debt to replace old debt, you're going to see a net impact of 0 cents. But statutorily, they make us put the rate in based on that formula. So it does show 6 cents, but on a net basis, there will be no impact to the tax rate. Happy to answer questions. I think otherwise you can open it up for public comment.
Okay. Board members have any questions? Anybody from the public have any questions or any comments? Okay, at this time then, I would like to entertain a motion from the board to close out this 1028 bond hearing.
I'll make a motion to close out the bond hearing.
I'll second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. The 1028 bond hearing has been closed. Next is the additional appropriations hearing. So at this time, I would like to open that hearing and again turn it over to Mr. McClellan.
So I'll be brief just because we've already kind of talked through everything, and that was kind of the point of talking through everything in the first hearing. But just for the record, this appropriates the funds, the proceeds of the bonds into your budget in an amount of not to exceed $5,335,000 for the project that's already been described. So with that, I think unless there's questions, you can open it up to the public.
Okay. Any board members have any questions? Anyone from the public have any questions? Okay, again, I'd like to entertain a motion from a board member to close the additional appropriations hearing.
I'll make a motion to close the additional appropriations hearing.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. All in favor of closing the additional appropriations hearing signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, gentlemen. At this time, I would like to open our regular session of our board meeting. The first thing on the agenda is comments from the public. We have no one that has signed up for public comments on agenda items. The next thing on the agenda is our consent agenda. As everybody knows, the board members get a packet of information prior to the meeting well in advance and have an opportunity to look over these things that are in the agenda. The consent agenda includes payroll claims, the payroll report, budgetary claims, certified and non-certified personnel reports. At this time, I would like to entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second that.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor of approving the consent agenda as presented signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Consent agenda passes. Next, student field trips.
There are no student field trips at this time.
Okay. Next on the agenda are our reports. Mrs. Lips for the curriculum report, assessment report.
Good evening, everyone. Staff shout-outs for this month. We have special summer thank yous to the food service staff, technology team, maintenance staff, grounds crew, transportation department, coaches, summer school teachers, administrators, secretaries who came in after hours, and office staff for enrolling and continue to provide services to summer school students, recruitment teams, athletes in our community. Human resources. Martinsville schools are in the business of educating students, and Martinsville schools are also in the business of taking care of the people in our school community. My main function as the district administrator responsible for human resources is to be a human who serves as a resource for people. People who work in the district and people whose children go to school in the MSD of Martinsville and people who connect with Martinsville schools. Some days my role might include recruiting, onboarding, training, and communicating. This summer, I have had the opportunity to welcome many fantastic new teachers and staff members and new students and families to the Metropolitan School District of Martinsville. We have one new teacher in the audience tonight, Samantha Harris, and her husband. We'd like to introduce her. Welcome her to Martinsville. Today, I can report to the school board that our enrollment numbers are rolling in higher than last year. But more importantly, the students, families, and staff are demonstrating a great deal of excitement about the start of school on Thursday, August 11th. Well Wednesdays. I have one item tonight, our Well Wednesday proposal, that will impact the entire school community. So that is what I will dedicate my academic reports focus. Background. At the February 2022 school board meeting, the board voted unanimously to allow the district to begin the state's application process for including professional development within the school schedule for the 2022-2023 school year. To seek parent and staff input, the district issued a survey to all parents and staff in March. The general application was submitted to the Indiana Department of Education by the district, requesting that Martinsville schools use a 2-hour late arrival format to include professional learning community work for teachers on Wednesday mornings throughout the school year. The Indiana Department of Education information that pertains to this: a 1003 flexibility waiver allows schools or groups of schools to waive statutory or regulatory requirements. Flexibility waivers offer tremendous potential for district and school leaders seeking to transform student learning at the local level. Martinsville was one of 58 schools who were granted approval on July 13th, 2022. Other schools, if you're interested, of the 58 that were granted approval: Danville, Bloomfield, Center Grove, Pike, Richland Bean Blossom, Zionsville, Bartholomew Consolidated Schools, which is Columbus. A couple of those schools that I mentioned did not have to apply this year because they have already had that waiver. Some of those on that list were new because this was our first application. Okay. To seek parent The objective of the waiver is to promote innovative approaches to student learning that will enhance student performance outcomes. Outcomes, of course, test scores, enrollment, attendance, retention, staff retention. A successful waiver is one with clearly defined student-centered goals and is reflective of the community's needs. Now, that was all from the state of Indiana. So those were their requirements. We were approved. That means we met all their requirements. Reasons for flexibility request. Per Indiana law, the approved reasons for flexibility are to improve student performance and outcomes, to offer the school or group of schools making the request flexibility in the administration of educational programs or improve the efficiency of school operations, to promote innovative educational approaches to student learning, or to advance the mission or purpose of the school or group of schools. The purpose of our Martinsville's Well Wednesday proposal is this. The ultimate goal of Well Wednesdays is to positively impact student achievement. The MSD of Martinsville plans to implement a 2-hour delay schedule on Wednesdays for the 2022-2023 school year in order to provide teachers with time for collaboration with professional learning communities and with training and professional development. We know that teachers are planning on their own. We know that they're grading on their own after hours. We know that they're seeking resources and doing research and doing those things that they need to do to be prepared for class. We know that they just don't show up and teach. This Well Wednesday plan allows teachers the most important piece of planning, and that's collaboration. Working with others, strategizing, planning, assessing, looking for students' gaps. What do we need to do differently in our instruction? What do we need to do for this group of students or this individual student? What families do we need to reach out to? This proposal is based on collaboration for the betterment of student success. The MSD of Martinsville is committed to supporting great teaching to improve student achievement. Rather than sending our staff outside of the district during instructional time for professional development opportunities, we wish to allow teams to collaborate in-house through professional learning communities called PLCs. Also, I've given the board and we'll be giving to the community, if this pending board approval tonight, our schedule for the year. And you'll notice on the schedule, we have school time, we have district time, we have some professional development planned, but the majority of every single session always reverts back to the professional learning community, the collaboration time. The IDOE recognizes this need and allows a variety of options through the 1003 flexibility waivers to provide time for teachers to do so. Instead of having our students to do periodic e-learning days for this purpose, which you can do, we are opting to utilize the 2 hours a week of the extra time built into our instructional school days to implement PLCs. Specifically, students will arrive 2 hours late every Wednesday, starting in August. Goals for the use of PLCs in Martinsville are improve student performance and outcomes. That's our scoreboard. If you're a coach, you look at the scoreboard. If you're a teacher, you look at scores. And we looked at scores this year. I've given elaborate responses to Adam Peterson from our Reporter Times. I've shared them with the school board, from our instructional team, and from our leaders in the district, our assessment of our scores. We've looked at our scores vertically, horizontally, every way you can look at it. We've read reviews from the nation, from the state, and I've presented to the Reporter, and hopefully there'll be an article in soon about the state scores and what our feelings are about our performance. Other goals: offer flexibility in the administration of educational programs and improve the efficiency of school operations. Promote innovative educational approaches to student learning. Advance the mission and purpose of our Martinsville schools. Our scoreboard is this: teacher retention, graduation rate, enrollment, attendance percentages, data growth from common assessment performance such as Study Island, NWEA, state mandated assessment performance such as iRead, iLearn, SAT, surveys. We will create surveys to send those out to see if we're meeting the parents' needs, meeting the students' needs, meeting the staff needs. RTI group success with creation of Tier 1 and Tier 2 intervention strategies. Our plans. As a district, we have made plans regarding transportation, food service, developmental preschool, the YMCA before school childcare, PLC training, and funding opportunities. Calendar of events for staff, time schedule, scripts for an introductory video that'll come out early next week, and scoreboard information were distributed to the school board prior to tonight's meeting if they had an opportunity to peruse that. And they will also be shared with the school community pending board approval tonight. The good news: we won. We got from the state an approval that what we're doing here, they believe in, and they want to see if we can make this happen. We're on a one-year waiver, so we'll have to have that data, we'll have to have that scoreboard lit up by the end of the year, because we will not be approved again if our results aren't what we want them to be. So tonight, the MSD of Martinsville seeks approval from the school board to begin the Well Wednesday plan, as per the Indiana State Board of Education's approval on July 13, 2022, of Martinsville's 1003 flexibility waiver. I will be here after the meeting to answer any community's questions. School board members, do you have questions now, or do you want me to wait till later when this comes up for the vote?
I think we'll wait for the vote.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Lips. Next on the agenda, under the report, and of course these are not action items, these are first readings. We have the Form 9 report and the attendance policy C-175. Mr. Boland, would you like to address either of these?
The only thing I would like to address probably is the attendance policy. There's been some requirements by the state of Indiana. We do live attendance and uploading of information daily. It's not weekly, it's not monthly, it is live. And so there are some requirements that we need to meet, so we needed to update the policies to reflect the changes the state is putting forth. So the board, well, this is first reading only for that. It's information only, and there'll be action taken in the next board meeting.
Any board members have any questions or any comments at this time of those items? Okay, moving on, we're going to go to action items. Mr. Boland?
The first action item is 1028, the bond presentation or resolution. Are you wanting to mention anything, Matt? Okay.
So again, this is a statutory process. It's required because the project's over $1 million. If you look at the resolution, it goes through and makes the findings similar to what Matt's presentation was, where it talks about the max tax rate, but everything will remain level because considering everything that as your debt rolls off. So That's it in a nutshell. I'd be happy to answer any questions if there are any.
I would make a motion here, or not
Okay.
a motion. I would recommend approval
Okay.
of 1028.
Okay, at this time, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve Resolution 1028, the bond resolution.
I move to approve 1028 bond resolution.
Second that.
Motion's been made and seconded. Does anyone have any questions or any comments? Okay, all in favor of approval of the 1028 bond resolution signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
The next one, Mr. Lips, is the bond resolution.
So this is the resolution that outlines the parameters for the issuance of the bonds. It gives authority for you all to have Stiefel help you through the process of selling the bonds, and it gives authority for the president and for the secretary to sign the bond documents once the bonds are sold and we close. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the bond resolution.
I'll make a motion to approve the bond resolution.
I'll second it.
Motion's been made and seconded. Does anyone have any questions or any comments? Okay, all in favor of approval of the bond resolution as presented signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Mr. Lips, the next action item is the additional appropriation resolution.
So this is the resolution where you officially appropriate the proceeds of the bonds into your budget. Having held the public hearing, the next step is just to consider the appropriation. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Again, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the additional appropriations resolution.
I move to approve the additional appropriation resolution.
I'll second it.
Motion's been made and seconded. Anyone have any questions? Okay, all in favor of approval of the additional appropriations resolution as presented signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lips, the next action item is the acceptance of the Martinsville High School roof bid. Moisture Management recommends Southern Roofing to complete the project.
Okay, again, I'd like to entertain a motion to accept the Martinsville High School roof bid project.
I'll make the motion to accept the Martinsville High School roof bid.
Okay, motion has been made and seconded. Anyone have any questions or any comments? All in favor of approving the Martinsville High School roof bid project signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Mr. Lips, the next item is the acceptance of the Sprint Turf bid to purchase and install field turf at Martinsville High School contingent upon the successful sale of the GO bond. I recommend that we approve.
Okay, at this time, I'd like to entertain a motion to accept the Sprint Turf bid to purchase and install field turf at Martinsville High School contingent upon the successful sale of the GO bond.
I'll make the motion to accept the spent turf bid.
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Does anyone have any questions? Okay, all in favor of accepting the Sprint Turf bid as presented signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
The next action item is permission to accept bids for the fence project that goes along with the turf project, and obviously it is contingent upon the sale of GO bonds as well. I recommend that we approve.
Okay, I'd like to entertain a motion to accept the fence project at Martinsville High School contingent upon successful sale of the GO bond.
I'll make a motion to accept the fence project contingent upon the sale of bond.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Anybody have any questions, comments? All in favor of accepting the bids for the fence project at Martinsville High School contingent upon successful sale of GO bond signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Next action item, permission to accept bids for scoreboard project at Martinsville High School contingent upon the sale of GO bond.
I'll make the motion to accept the bids for scoreboard project at the high school.
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Anyone have any questions? Okay, all in favor of permission to accept bids for the scoreboard project at MHS contingent upon the successful sale of the GO bond, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
The next action item is giving authorization to sign agreements for alternative services and private residential school placements. I recommend that we approve.
I'll make the motion to authorize to sign agreements for alternative services.
I'll second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Anyone have any questions? Okay, all in favor of authorizing to sign agreement for alternative services, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Next action item, transportation request to purchase school bus. I recommend that we approve.
I move to, oh, go ahead, Michelle.
I move that we purchase the school bus.
I'll second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Anyone have any questions? Okay, all in favor of the purchase of the school bus, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Next action item deals with the approval of the Martinsville High School Handbook. I recommend approval.
I'll make the motion to approve MHS student handbook.
I second it.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Anyone have any questions about the student handbook for MHS? All in favor of approving the MHS student handbook as presented, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
The next item deals with what Mrs. Lips spoke of, the Well Wednesday proposal, 1003 waiver. I recommend approval.
I move to approve the Well Wednesday proposal.
And I'll second that, but I do have a comment or a question. Even with that, I just want to make it clear to the public that, you know, this process did start in February, and it's unfortunate that the DOE took so long to make a determination. We were hopefully, to get that back sooner. You know, it's our goal to make it convenient for the parents and the students. But I'm looking forward to the school board, Mrs. Lips, when this comes out. And I want to also add that even with this 2-hour every Wednesday, we still exceed the state mandated minutes, instructional minutes. Our school still exceeds that, so.
We have a motion. We have a second. Anyone else have any comments?
I just have a couple of questions. So you did answer one on the year-to-year, so we do have to apply on a year-to-year basis.
Yes.
So you answered that one for me, thank you. So in the buildings, if they were doing any type of PLC or prep work, does this Well Wednesday take the place of those?
Thank you for asking. Yes. For example, Artie Hour at the high school will not be on Well Wednesday. PLC time that was carved out, for example, at John R. Wooden Middle School, we have Mr. Peterson here in the audience. He facilitated a lot of our training this summer along with our instructional team with PLCs. They will not be operating on the same PLC schedule. They were, like all of us, waiting on the state's approval, but in those situations, we did have students in the building, but it was more random and more hectic, not as intentional and purposeful as this is. With this, we've, cleared the slate, so it's the adults that are there. If you remember in 2019, Martinsville High School staff members, I'm sure remember for that year and other years, 2019-20, we met in the mornings and the students waited in the gymnasium and the the auxiliary gym and another area, like in holding tanks, while the teachers were meeting. And that wasn't always the best situation. You could say, well, they were in the building. They were, and sometimes just being around good, helps. And it was safe. It was a safe haven. But being at home and sleeping for 2 more hours, especially for those high school students that stay up late at night doing homework or having a job or being involved with extracurricular activities. This is advantageous for them, but it's especially advantageous for the elementary people because in their buildings, they didn't have the opportunities that secondary schools did to carve out extra time because they, they're in the grade levels. They're not in subjects where students are moving from class to class and moving around the building with a schedule. They have those students all day, even though they might shift out for math or something. So for elementary, we feel this is going to be very advantageous, but, and I see Mrs. Hammonds is here from Bell Intermediate Academy, and both Bell and Wooden do an absolutely awesome job facilitating PLCs with what we had. But are you thumbs up that this is going to take it a notch up? Okay. Yeah, thank you for sharing. And that was a great question. I meant to mention that. And childcare was something that Mrs. Deckard brought up. And, we do have the YMC childcare, and we've created a video to go out to the school community early next week. And an email will go out to all of our families tomorrow. But, and we talked specifically real short about transportation, breakfast, which will be offered to every student in the school for free, even on Wednesdays. And thanks to Kurt Bodell's facilitation with that from Food Services. And Transportation, Phil Kirk is here to represent the Transportation Department. They have made arrangements that, for example, the Hoosier Hill students, the students from Martinsville High School that take vocational classes at Hoosier Hills in Bloomington, they have made arrangements for those students to get there still on time. They will have a bus. They will make the route down to Bloomington so those students can still participate fully. But back to the child care, the YMCA has a child care morning session and afternoon in all of our elementaries currently. We met with Dave Nash and Robin McDaniel this week from the YMCA. Child care started in Martinsville schools, that partnership, 30 years ago. This is our 30th year of partnering with the Y, them taking care of our students before school. And they are not going to leave us dry on Wednesdays. They will be here. And we talked with them about 2-hour delay. Because a 2-hour delay, we've done those before. So we're familiar when you say 2-hour delay, we know what that operates like. But this is a purposely planned 2-hour delay for the whole year. So it's not just a one-time, what are we going to do this morning? This is going to be for the whole year. So Dave and Robin from the Y have said, they anticipate there could be an influx. Even though on regular 2-hour delay days, they don't have any more students than they usually have. It's $35 for one day. So and that is 6:30 in the morning to 10:30. So for 4 hours, $35. And the reason they have to stay with that $35 charge is because for the regular service for a week of childcare with the YMCA, it's $70. And even if they only use that service 2 times a week, it's still $70. So they couldn't, sacrifice their integrity with their regular customers because of this situation, but they have made arrangements to be there longer and to hire some of our people that maybe only work 29 hours that could come in and help to work during that session. But the bottom line, I think what Mrs. Deckard was getting at is the payment of the $35. you know, when you hear $35 for one day, wow, that's 4 hours. That's not quite $10 an hour, but still, you know, that's a lot, especially if you're struggling and that $35 isn't there. So we have fundings in some different areas with not only a grant that we're writing with the Community Foundation, it's an impact grant, and we met with Brittany Bentley from Community Foundation to work with her. With that, Tiffany Grant is working specifically aiming some funding at helping these families that might need that $35 support. And we don't know. That could be one thing that's a pocket of an issue. There might be something else that comes up. And we'll report back to you next month and let you know how it rolls off. Because that rolling off is where we're going to see, you know, what we maybe didn't expect. That's where the problems are. Or maybe it'll be 100% smooth. We'll let you know.
I appreciate that. I was worried about that because I looked at how much that would be for 36 weeks, and that's quite a bit for a
Yes.
parent. So,
And I appreciate, number one, the question from Board Member Ball, and then what you're saying, Mr. Hankins, is the fact that we don't want anybody we've always had a policy in the MSD of Martinsville on participation in co-curricular, extracurricular activities. We don't want anybody to not be able to participate because of fee structures or something. We've always done that. We'll continue to find ways to do that. If we have to do some staffing realignment, we'll do that. Whatever it takes to be able to take care of our students first and our families, we will do. So that's a commitment that we will make. And I want to go ahead and go and show you how important your question was, Mrs. Ball, at the high school. I can speak to it specifically. We have an RD hour, which is after lunch, 35 minutes, and that's 5 days a week. That's when we did our PLC time. That's when our departments met, but each department was assigned a particular day. So they had one day throughout that week. The problems occurred whenever we had that department off. Somebody else, other departments, other teachers had to cover their classroom during that RD period. That prohibited us from having RTI interventions in the teacher that's covering's classroom. So, for example, I might have some students in math. I shouldn't use math as an example, Mr. Knuckles. I was awful in math. But let's say I was doing math, I was teaching it, and I had some students struggling, and I needed them to come in on Tuesday, but on Tuesday I'm covering the English department. I'm not in there. I can't help those kids. With the Well Wednesdays now, math teachers will be able to help kids every day, except on the Wednesday. They'll be there on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, during that time to target kids intentionally, bring them into their classroom, and give them extra supports, because we know how important this whole COVID impact has been, and we want to be able to target those kids and help them. So I really appreciate that question, because it will allow us to really target and do the level 1, tier 1, tier 2 interventions that we really need to do to see some improvement. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Boland and Mrs. Slips, for that. I also have one more question. You mentioned assessing at the end of the month possibly what the impact is on the families, because that's, we don't want that to be a hardship on the families or the teachers or staffs or transportation or anyone else. So do you anticipate then each month giving the board a report of the growth or, progression, regression, or however you see it? Do you anticipate that's enough time to do that? Because I would be interested. I'd like to see the results of that, maybe not just at the end of the year or at the end of a semester of it, and maybe that's not enough time. Maybe you need every other month or, every quarter.
Sure, we can do reports. Are you talking the scoreboard report with
Right.
data?
Right, I would like to see that.
We take NWEA once each term, but when we get the results, we can give those to you as far as like in a form of a report here at this meeting. We'll put results together. We'll also, instead of me randomly talking about attendance and that kind of thing, put together the bullet points that we're being assessed on from the state and then give you feedback for those.
Great.
There might
Yeah.
be sometimes,
That you
some
can.
areas, it might be every other month,
Sure.
but some other areas, it might be monthly.
Sure.
So we'll definitely feed you that information, because we're going to need it to inform what we're doing. Because we might have to make some course corrections during the middle of this. And if we have to, we're going to do it. We'll make those corrections.
Right. Thank you.
Sure.
So, for participation, does IDOE expect 100% participation from staff? So like, how is that gonna be accountable? Like, do they do a sign-in or?
All teachers, 100% have to be there.
And so is it like?
That's that's just mandated. It'll be part of their school day. It's part of their contract. They'll be starting at regular time. It's the students that'll be coming on a 2-hour delay. But the staff, I think I shared with you the calendar, and at the top of that calendar that I shared were the times that teachers arrive, and that's their regular school day arrival time. And we expect all teachers will be there. Support staff without students won't be there. We will push them into other time frames. They'll have time to maybe help with dismissal at the elementary school or intermediate or middle school for like 29-hour support staff workers. That's really not obviously a full week. So sometimes they don't, have the opportunity to work with students as much as we would like. This gives them 2 more hours. They'll be pushed in with students.
So it's considered like a regular day. So if a teacher couldn't be there, they handle it just like if they were
Yes.
missing.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yes, right, Mrs. Ball.
Okay. I just want to make sure I understood that. And then I do want to make sure I understand. So to measure the success of the Wednesdays, you're going to look at the attendance, the I-Learn, the NWD.
Graduation rate, the enrollment, because if we lose pockets of students because they're not achieving, people that, just like with the HYPE program I talked about last month, the reason we're focusing on that outreach program is because those are students that have not been attending school, and so we're giving them a wraparound and been meeting with them and connecting with them this summer. But all of those factors are what the Indiana Department of Ed says are things that will prove whether or not we're being successful. So it's not just a score at the end of the year. We don't have to wait till the end of the year to see if we think this is going well. And also it'll be the relationships of the teachers. When you can work together and you have a better rapport and you can share strategies, and teachers feel more comfortable about coming into the classroom prepared with a new idea or something that they haven't used. That sharing, that building relationships at school, it's a good thing. Mr. Boland and I were at a leadership meeting yesterday, and they said, you can move your pay rate up a little bit, which pay always helps everybody. But if you start dollar censing people, then you're going to run out of money. You've got to focus on the climate, the culture, the way you treat people, respect, and whether or not you're taking care of them. Are you taking care of your people? So that really made me examine the whole human resource bit. He described yesterday, his name's Todd Gross. Todd Gross was the speaker, and he described that human resource used to be, you had a stack of applicants this high, and the best human resource person could look through that stack and find the top 20 candidates, interview them, then select the top 5, and then pick the one that's the best fit for your organization. He says now it's not about selection, it's about sales, which is what we've incorporated here this year with recruitment of staff and like I can say, thumbs up to Bell today. They've just gotten a teacher over the weekend, resigned, had some other family interest, and they've replaced that teacher already. 2 nights ago, I sent an application that someone said, hey, this is exciting. Tiffany Grant said, wow, this is exciting. Ship it off to the high school. Jeff Bell called the candidate that night, set up an interview today. They have a letter of intent in their hand. I mean, you know, we're finding good people because, like Todd Gross said, you cannot, you know, expect that you can take 2 weeks to interview. You can't take 2 weeks to interview because if the best person was 2 weeks ago, they've already got hired by somebody else. This is an employees market. So the employees we need to take care of, and that's our role here in Martinsville School District, is to take care of our people. And it's people who work here, but also the students and the families. And I think I got off track of what I was going to tell you, but because I started thinking of all this other stuff, but there was so many great things that he was talking. Oh, I know, here's what it is. He said, but everybody blames the pandemic for having no one working. And he said 62 million people in the country are working today. 62 million. Before the pandemic, it was like 63 million. He said the reason that people are going back to work, a lot of people, because they're working remotely or what have you, but because our population growth hasn't met the amount of jobs now we have. We have so many new jobs out there in the market. So many areas have created jobs and openings that we don't have enough people in our country to fill these jobs. So he says it's a population problem, not necessarily because right now everyone blames the pandemic, you know, and that's not necessarily what it is. And all the people that we've, like Samantha, they're all excited about being here, and we just have to keep that excitement up. That's what our role is, and hopefully this will help. That'll be a layer of that. So thanks for asking that question.
One last one. So, we're not going to wait till like July when I-Learn scores come out to reapply. You're going to have a good idea. Just because of the delay, if there's any changes, I just didn't want it to be last minute for our staff and our...
No, we would apply as soon as we can, just like we did last year in February. This past year we did. But, you know, we will know, we'll have a feeling. You know if you're having a good game, if you're an athlete. You know if you're playing your best round on the flute when you're performing. You can feel it. And if everything's rolling and we don't have a lot of stumbling blocks and people are thriving and the conversations are about student success and student achievement, and we're seeing the results on NWEA and all of the things that we have in between that reflect, you know, those common assessments are the things that reflect what we're gonna do on iRead and iLearn. So we will be able to have a feel for that, and if we don't feel comfortable and it's not the best thing for our district, I don't think we need to pursue it again.
Okay. I appreciate, I just have a comment and thank you. I appreciate the patience in you explaining the PLCs that were in place. You answered that the way I was hoping you would, because if those go out, then it's actually adding instruction time when you do the math. Not horrible math, but I
You might be there with me.
I am.
I did sort of look at that before I came in this evening. I've been a big proponent of not just all in favor of this, but I just of the inconvenience of parents and wasn't just quite sure of how this was panning out. But I appreciate you taking the time to maybe have to explain something more than once to me or to double make sure, because like I said, I was negative about it, but you've answered the questions and I support it because I feel like it's important to have that change and see where this can lead our students and staff. So I do appreciate it.
I appreciate that feedback, but you know, it is a risk. It's a challenge. I mean, we're one of 58 schools, and there's over, what'd you say today?
There's over 400 districts and 58 have been granted.
Over 400 school districts, and we were one of 58 that, you know, was given an approval. And, you know, sometimes you can get complacent and say things are going smoothly. Why don't we just do it the way we've been doing it? It's easy. Easy isn't always best. Sometimes you have to take the tough road. Sometimes you have to work out the kinks and work together and listen to questions and struggle through the hard stuff. Because if you're going to win, whether you're winning in the classroom or you're winning in a relationship or on a playing field, you're going to have struggles. You're going to have to regroup. And, you know, right now this is our game plan, but maybe in a month we're going to have to get together and change it up a little bit. And I anticipate that. You know, we just got to be willing to do that and dig in and do what's best for our students. And I think you know, am happy that the board supports that and that you've been, you know, asking all the things that have made us be better. I think your questions and, you know, the conversation and the dialogue has made us be better about what we are offering for our students. So thank you. I mean that.
Besides just the daycare issue, were you gonna kind of get a feel for if this has been any struggle for parents, maybe just not even on the daycare issue, but just overall, is it gonna hit all the parents?
Absolutely. We'll give a couple of questions, but the best question is always the open-ended question, what else? And then let it go, you know, hear what they have to say, and hopefully they give a contact number where you can contact and find out how. I mean, I've knocked on a lot of doors this summer to recruit people that, you know, are homebound instruction, or they've chosen not to go to our schools, but they live here. And those conversations, 9 out of 10 times, it ends up on our success, and they say, I want to join you guys. I want to be there. I like what you're talking about. I like your passion. And, you know, we have a team of people that are out doing that, and it's all about this, everything that's going on here. Thank you.
I think we also, too, need to thank all the staff that have worked tirelessly on these plans, not knowing that they were going to even be approved. So I appreciate that. And then probably a premature thank you to the families that are going to be willing to adjust their schedules for the betterment of the kids in our district. So.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Everybody working together.
Any other comments or any other questions before we vote?
Well, as Heather mentioned, the staff, I mean, I think we have the best staff around, and I know in February, some of the teachers spoke very passionately about they were going to use that time to look at scores and to look at and dive, you know, do some deep dives, and I know that they will, and I appreciate that because that's what we want, what's best for our students, always.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, the motion's been made, it's been seconded, so at this time, I would like to vote on approval of the Well Wednesday proposal, the 1003 waiver. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
The next action item is the annual ECA fiscal year report. Mrs. Linthicum has submitted that to you, and I recommend approval.
I'll make the motion to accept the ECA fiscal year 2022 financial report.
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Anyone have any questions or any comments? All in favor of approval of the ECA fiscal year 2022 financial report signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
The next action item is a very important one. It is the Food Service Employee Handbook. As Mrs. Lips mentioned a few moments ago, it's an employees market out there, and finding staffing for our support staff is very difficult. If you saw the article in the Star over the weekend or the last few days, it puts an earmark or a target on school districts and the difficulty in finding support staff, how tough it is. And from Mr. Bodell's point of view, we had 10 openings with 2 employees at 2 different elementaries that we were short, which means we're not going to be able to feed the kids. So we needed to make some adjustments. Now, the thing I wanted to make a comment on, and it's something with regards to comments we had with the board previously, we're wanting to look at all the support staff as we move forward. But right now, it was very important to be able to feed the kids on the first day, so Mr. Bodell went ahead and put his through. We'll be looking at the others. We can't run a school building without our support staff. And all of you are sitting in this audience know that, but I'm speaking to the audience out there in Streamland. We can't function without our support staff. We can't tell them thank you enough for what they do, because their pay is not in a strong relationship to their impact. And every school in the United States can say the same thing. But we want to make sure we're able to take care of them to the best of our ability with the limited funds that we have on a yearly basis. So we will be revisiting all the handbooks for each of the other positions, and we'll be doing that here as early as we possibly can here in the fall. Okay, so I wanted to make sure we stated that, because we had pushed that back to the fall, but we wanted to make sure right now we can feed those kids. So I recommend that we approve the food service employee handbook.
I'll second that, but with a comment. Also want everyone to understand that food service is self-supporting. So they are a self-supporting entity. So Kurt is in charge of his own funds. But I do second it.
Okay. Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Anyone else have any comments or any questions?
I just have a comment. Thank you, Kurt, for getting this together and pushing for it to get on the agenda. So moms and dads, grandmas and grandpas, check out this handbook if it gets passed through, because it is an increase, and there's nothing more awesome than seeing those kids hungry go through the line, and thank you for serving them cinnamon rolls and food. So get in here and enjoy spending time with these kiddos at lunch. But again, thanks, Kurt.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. All in favor of approval of the food service employee handbook as presented this evening, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you for passing that. I mentioned a few moments ago about we've never had our policy, what we tend to do in all of our co-curricular, extracurricular activities is have an opportunity for all kids to participate. We can say the same thing on food. I don't know how often our staff buys lunches, puts money into kids' accounts. I have never seen a kid in 27 years not get fed. Okay, there might be a few that didn't get a meal and they didn't say anything and they went sit down. I'm not saying that. But anytime we've ever known of a situation, we've taken care of it. And we have great staff members that will do it. And I'll tell you, some of our certified staff who make the least in our district, they do it as much or more than anybody else. So we are prideful of our staff and blessed to have them. So thank you for that. I'll move forward without pontificating any longer. Teacher Appreciation Grant, I recommend that you approve. This is the tag money that's put out yearly from the state.
I move to approve the Teacher Appreciation Grant.
I'll second it.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the Teacher Appreciation Grant policy. Do we have any questions or any comments? All in favor of approval of the Teacher Appreciation Grant policy signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Okay, we now have 15 through 20 are donations. If it's okay with you, can I read all the donations and then pass all of them at one time.
Yes.
But I want to make sure these companies and these people are put out on in public domain. Donation from Keller's Office Supply to Martinsville Athletics, $500. Donation from Wells, Marvel, and Hall to Martinsville Athletics for $500. Donation from Super Sports to Martinsville High School Athletics for $800. Donation from Home Bank to Martinsville High School Athletics for $1,000. Donation from Cutters Football to Martinsville High School Athletics, $1,000. Donation from Neal and Summers to Martinsville High School Athletics for $4,000. I recommend approval.
I'll make a motion that we accept all those donations to the athletic programs and other entities.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Anyone have any questions, any comments? All in favor of accepting all the donations that were presented by Mr. Boland, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Boland. Next item on the agenda is public participation at board meetings. At the completion of the school board's regular business, a visitor who wishes to speak may do so at the discretion of the president. The visitor will be required to state his or her full name and will be given the opportunity to speak using the same guidelines that is used for agenda items, not to exceed 2 minutes for each person. It shall not be permissible to orally present or discuss complaints against individual employees of the MSD of Martinsville at any Board of School Trustee meeting. Such charges or complaints shall be presented to the Board of School Trustees in writing and shall be signed by the person making the charge or the complaint. Boisterous conduct shall not be permitted at any meeting of the Board of School Trustees, nor will any abusive remarks be tolerated. We appreciate everyone's civility in maintaining a business order. A year ago, this school board changed policy allowing public comment at the end of the meetings on items outside of the agenda. We have embraced this opportunity for community members to share ideas and concerns. Keeping with the 2-minute guideline helps us maintain an orderly business meeting. If you want to or need to speak to the board longer than 2 minutes, please feel free to connect with us here tonight after the meeting. In an effort to fairly adhere to the 2-minute guideline for all participants, we will present the 2-minute time on the interactive panels around the room. Board members will listen to the speakers during the designated time frame, but will not participate in back and forth comments with those speaking. Board follow-up or question answers will be given at the end of the meeting or via phone call or at the beginning of the next meeting. At the conclusion of the designated 2 minutes, speakers will be asked to return to their seats. During our Martinsville School Board meetings, we will demonstrate civility and respect for all views. At this time, is there anyone in our audience that would like to come to the podium?
Bill Mitchell, Clay Township Trustee, Martinsville School District. How come we are not in the Indiana School Board Association anymore? I asked for these to be repeated to me after the meeting, put it in the paper. I need an answer because we need this because taxes are going higher. 80 cents out of every dollar this school board gets. And right now we don't have any public comments other than 2 minutes for each person, and we're not getting represented by the community. Okay, and the last meeting in May, I made a comment up here, and all my comments were censored by the reporter. So I don't think that ought to happen again because we will have other guidelines to change that. Then we have some athletes, kids that play, and I'm still active in the school system, and I have people saying to me that, boy, some of the athletics players, coaches are letting kids play with F on a report card. Now, I'm pretty sure that happened, but we'll ask for find out about that. Okay, and what about the wooden field? Did we do anything at the wooden athletic field behind the wooden school? It's not been used, I don't think, for a long time. What's it being used for now? If everything's going to the high school out there, what's the wooden field being used for? And if we go to this 2 hour on Wednesday, 2 hour delay, what's that going to do to the grade school when they don't get to school till 10:30 to eat breakfast and then they're going to eat lunch. And these kids, it's going to be money thrown away with the school system because they're not going to eat 2 meals a day. Because I have been a mentor in schools, and I see how they do eat breakfast at 9 o'clock in the morning, 8:30 to 9 o'clock, and they eat breakfast, and sometimes they don't want dinner because they don't know what they're having for dinner, so it goes in the trash can. And that would save Mr. Bowen or Kurt Bodell a lot of money if we didn't have to throw that money away, because on a 2-hour delay, it's going to throw the kids in the grade school off record.
Thank you, Mr. Mitchell. Anyone else?
Good evening. I won't take all 2 minutes. My name is Luke Jackson. Just a few things. I did want to thank the board and wanted to thank the administration. I came with a couple of just quick questions, but all of you kind of had the same questions. A lot of the families I work with in Paragon, a lot of those kids really do depend on breakfast for food security. I wanted to make sure that was available. I appreciate the effort in doing so very much. That is very, very well received, and I'm grateful for that. Also, as with many of the families I work with, we do live in somewhat of a depressed community in Paragon. $35 a week is okay maybe for one kid, but if you have 2, 3, or 4, that can add up. So I appreciate the administration looking in with the Community Foundation for grants that are possible with that can be taken care of. I know our congregation, churches in the community are willing to help with that also, so I'd like to be a partner with you in that. Another item, I was wanting to just give encouragement. I appreciated the board's decision last month, I believe it was, not just to hire an additional head resource officer to replace Mr. Foley, but also a 5th resource officer, if I'm correct on my numbers. And I assume that the grant was also submitted as well recently, and I appreciate Mr. Boland reaching out to me and speaking with me on the phone. I appreciate that very much. I would ask in the future, as time goes on, I understand, we can't flip a switch. I would appreciate if we could look forward to and make plans that in the future, every school within the district has a dedicated resource officer for that school. It's unfortunate we live in times where that's a necessity, but I can assure you, you will not meet one mother, grandmother, dad, grandpa who will not agree with that, and I know all of you do as well. So I appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. Anyone else? Okay, Mr. Boland, first opportunity for superintendent comments.
My comments will not be very long. I know some of you know me, know that's going to be a chore for me. But I can say this, wow, for my first one, I am so grateful. I am humbled. I've been here in our district for 27 years, and to be sitting in this spot, I am very humbled, very moved. I thought the announcement back in the spring was moving. This is even more so, to be here working with the board. So the first thing I want to say is thank you to the board, because you put me here, and the trust that you placed in me. I really, really am appreciative of that, and I will work daily to earn that trust and keep that trust. Dr. R is not here as we celebrated the end of his tenure in the last meeting, but I want to thank him for working with me over the last year, moving me to the high school, being a mentor for me in my program. He's been a great, great mentor and a source of inspiration for me, so I want to thank him publicly for that. I think the departments, we've talked about them tonight, we've mentioned them, but transportation, food service, technology, maintenance, what they've been doing all summer, they don't stop. They keep going at it, they keep planning, they keep doing what is needed. They maintain the facilities, they maintain buses, they maintain equipment, they maintain a lot. And then our support staff, you walk into a building, there's things going on, and they're in there. Some of them are not on the clock, but they're in there taking care of things, getting them ready for our kids to provide the best educational opportunity for our kids. So can't thank them enough. So I wanted to just double down on that. An announcement to our community, just a reminder, students' first day is August the 11th. Happens to be my birthday, so I'm going to celebrate with the students. But it's August the 11th, and one very important point here for our school community, over the last 2 years with COVID, we have had free lunches. There has been free lunches. That from the federal government and from the state, that is ending. So if there are any families that need the free and reduced application that we did 2 years ago, make sure you get online. Make sure you contact one of our schools. Make sure you contact us here at central office or the food service. We will help you make sure you get the application for the free and reduced program. But we just don't want you to be surprised that first week it's like, oh, well, we've had free lunch for the last 2 years. That has changed. So I just wanted to make sure. And if there are any other changes that come out, Mr. Bodell is staying on top of all that. So thank you, Mr. Bodell, for doing that. Mr. Lips, I told you it's going to be short, so that's as short as I might get this year.
It's all
Thank
relative.
you all. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Boland. Any comments from board members?
Well, Mr. Boland just stated one of the items that I was going to bring up was the free and reduced application, because it is important. And sometimes, as Mr. Bodell, I know they do a great job in informing the parents too, but it's not just meals. Sometimes they may miss out on some other benefits by not filling out that application. So even if you don't qualify, fill it out. They will let you know if you qualify or not. And I want to mention that the Morgan County Fair is starting, and that I know a lot of staff members will be there, board members will be there. We're happy to speak to any of you. So if you have questions, I'll let Darby plug maybe some of her. No, she's shaking her head no. Okay, we'll go visit all the booths, not just the MSD of Martinsville, but we will be there. So I want to encourage everyone to come out, and if you have questions and comments and you don't feel comfortable here in this platform, come see us at the fair.
I did neglect to mention that the board has talked about supporting our 4-H effort, and we are working on that and finding a mechanism to make that happen. So I'll let you know, board, once we get that all approved.
Michelle, you have comments?
First off, I just want to wish everyone the last few days of summer break. I know not summer, but summer break, and wish everyone a very safe and successful back to school all the way from transportation, teachers, admin. I know it's a busy time, but I appreciate, I know that summer break is not what you do, but I just wish you all luck on back to school. Also, when you serve as a school
Anyone else?
I think if I remember correctly, is the backpack for Hoosier Harvest on Saturday?
Yes,
Yes,
the
it is.
Lift Up event is at Hoosier Harvest starting at 8 o'clock tomorrow, or Saturday morning. And there will be school representatives there until, is it 2 or 3? 8 to 12. Volunteers, we get there at 8. The public is 9 to 12. Public is 9 to 12. Volunteers show up at 8 at Hoosier Harvest, Saturday. And we have also a food tent at the fair that all of our elementary schools and Bell Intermediate Academy will be staffing, along with Central Education staff members and administrators in the district. Will be at the food tent, and board members this coming week to make sandwiches, and the profits will go to the elementaries and Bell Intermediate Academy. Thank you.
Also, one last thing, I know it was the greatest wish you could have had, but happy birthday to Don, you got to be at a school board meeting.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. You got that right. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, at this time, I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Meeting adjourned.